So one of my surprise flowers that I really enjoyed this year has been gladiola. Now I put gladiola in my garden at home, not the allotment, because I wanted to get some height in this garden, and there's not very much that'll grow because the soil is so bad. But only about half of the glads that I planted actually flowered. They all put up their leaves and their foliage, but only half flowered. Because the conditions here are so bad. But I like them so much that today, now they've started to die back, I am going to dig them up, separate the bulbs, clean them off and organise them, ready to put in the allotment for next year, where hopefully I'll get lots of beautiful gladiola. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Peggy and I'm growing a cut flower garden here on my allotment in Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan, which is just south of Tokyo in USDA Zone 9B. Thanks for checking out my channel. So I have never grown gladiola before because I didn't really like them. To me, they were a bit of an older lady flower. I imagined just straight bunches of them in big huge vases, and they were big and tall and didn't really kind of combine well with other flowers. And also the colours that I've seen them in have been really bright, kind of gaudy colours, not kind of subtler hues that I like. And so I just hadn't been kind of looking into them at all. But I wanted something to put in my garden because the growing conditions are so bad. This is a new build house, and so the soil is absolutely terrible. It's mostly filled with rubble from the house that was here before and got knocked down. I've slowly been trying to build it up, but it's really not very good. It's very compacted and it's very gritty, and it just has no nutrition in it. So everything's really struggling. So I planted gladiola all around the place. I put some in pots and I put some like these ones in the ground. And as you can see, they all put up leaves and foliage, but only a couple of them actually flowered. I'd say just less than 50% maybe gave me flowers. But the flowers I got, I loved. Absolutely loved them. The colours were beautiful. One came up and it was perfectly paired to the lavender that I had growing in the garden that was flowering at the same time. Just a beautiful soft lavender, but it was a very, I say soft, but it was also quite vibrant, and it was almost ombre, where it was really dark at the edges and then kind of softened towards the middle to a really soft lavender. I also got a really beautiful buttery yellow one. I got a beautiful coral one that went well with everything. It was just so summery and lovely. So I really want these again, but because they did so poorly in my garden, I'm going to pull them all up and put them down in the allotment, and hopefully I will get a lot more flowering down there where the conditions are obviously a lot better. So I'm going to start pulling them up. Now these ones, I think only one or two actually flowered, but I have quite a lot in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So yeah, I've got about 15 in here, and I think I maybe got 2 or 3 flowers from them. So they really need to come up. But gladiola actually grow from corms, not bulbs, although they look quite bulbous. It is actually a corm. So I'm going to pull them up, and hopefully I'll have a nice new corm that's grown on, but maybe as well some smaller ones that have divided off, and I should be able to get a few more flowers next year than I got this year. So let's go. Okay, you can see I've got the kids paddling pool in the background behind me. So you can see that these have all finished flowering and the foliage is dying back. It's starting to go yellow and brown and getting a bit tatty, and that's how we know that it's time to pull these guys out. So these are ones that I had it in a container. And because I think that there's going to be some smaller, new, fragile corms, I'm going to use a little shovel just to loosen the soil. You can just pull them out, but sometimes, well, this one's going to come out. Sometimes the stalks do just break off. So you're going to pull it out like that, and you can see there's kind of a big one and then lots of little ones coming around the side. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the rest of these. This one seems to have had 3 growing off it anyway. Okay, so now I've got these all cut. I am going to go ahead, and I've got a bucket full of water here. I'm just going to cut them all off and give them a clean. can see that's just a teeny tiny bulb, or corm, but it still put up a nice healthy plant, and I have actually cut a flower from that one, so that has flowered. It's kind of creepy, this one. It's like millions of little teeth. That's them all in there. And now I'm just going to give them a good wash. So you can see this one's actually kind of 3 stuck together already. So if you pull off the skin of this and look closely, you can see it's coming out of this flat one at the bottom. And this one is called the mother corm. So this is what I planted last year and it made the flowers, but this isn't going to come back again. You can see it's kind of sucked dry and all wrinkly and not good. So what you do is literally just pull these ones apart from it. Sometimes they come really easily and sometimes you've got to give them a bit of a tug, and that gives you a completely new bulb ready for next year. So the same, just pull off. Oh, this one doesn't want to come. There we go. So that's 1, 2, 3, oops. And you're left with this bit, which is all used up. Sorry, my pomegranate tree's in the way. All used up and not good for anything, so you can just throw that in your compost pile. But from that one that I planted last year, I now have 3 new bulbs. This is a weird looking one. You can see this is the mother corm from last year, and it's put out this huge big bulb, which then has put out smaller bulbs that are actually already putting out roots on them. So I'm going to pull off the mother one and then leave all these little ones just sticking on. But by next year, they'll all be bigger bulbs that I can use as well. So that's the mother bulb off and the one I've got left. There's another one the same. So you can see this is the mother corm here, and this is the new one, and it has all these weird little teeth things growing off it as well. Ooh. So that's the old one, and that's my one for next year, which hopefully will put up more than one flower because it's got so many little ones attached. That one looks like it's got little mushrooms sprouting from it. Okay, so now these are all nice and clean. Give them a good wash, get all the dirt off them. Then I'm just going to lay them on this table, which is great because it's got the holes in it, and I will let them dry. Okay, so as with all bulbs and corms, the bigger the bulb, the bigger the flower you're going to get. So I have some that are obviously really big, like this, and then some that are really small. Now, if you're growing these in the garden, obviously you kind of want to have the big ones because they're going to stand tall and they're going to be the biggest statement. But for me, for using them for cut flowers, quite often these ones are just way, way too big. So these little ones are actually really nice just to be able to add into a bouquet with it, without it overpowering everything else that you're putting in an arrangement with it. So I don't mind that I've got these little ones. But also you can see I had some that I put in this year, which is more of these big ones. So these ones have been in, let me find a good one. Yeah, so these ones have been in the ground just for a year, and you can see they've got all these kind of tiny, almost teeth-like extra cormy bits growing out of them, which will turn into their own bulbs eventually, their own corms. But I also had some that I planted in, I also had some that I planted in last year that didn't do anything last year but did come up for me this year, and they were from Gladiolus bambino. And obviously the name suggests they were smaller ones. They were supposed to be shorter. Now they're not a dwarf variety, they still got tall, but they were much better for what I wanted to use them for, which was cut flower arranging. And you can see that the bulbs on those are much smaller. So yeah, these are kind of some of my bambino bulbs. But because these have been in the ground 2 years, you can see these don't have anything growing on the sides of them. Instead, those little teeth have kind of turned into these tiny little individual bulbs. So you can see that some of these are starting to put up their own little shoots coming out of them, and they've got their own little root systems and stuff. So I think these will give me foliage this year, which will help the corm grow, and then the year after that I'll start getting nice flowers off of those. So I am going to put these all back into the ground just to let the corms grow on so that I get nicer flowers the year after. But that is it. So I'm not upset that they're not all these huge big bulbs. It's not actually probably what I want. I'm more looking for this. Which means when you order bulbs, they tend to come in different sizes, and obviously the bigger bulbs cost more. So always buying the bigger bulb doesn't actually mean you're going to get what's best for you. If you're growing in a garden, I would suggest, yes, get the bigger bulb. It makes a bigger statement. But if you're growing for cut flowers, sometimes, especially in these really big tall ones, the smaller bulbs are actually more manageable and more what you want to be using them for. Yeah. Also, I've done this, I've dug these all up, but I didn't have to. Obviously, if I was leaving these in the ground, then all these little bulbs would by themselves turn into bigger bulbs and I would get more flowers. The reason I'm doing it is because I need to move them. They're not doing well in my garden, so I want to move them down into the allotment where they're going to do a lot better and give me more flowers. Having said that, you can see that just in 1 year, how many extra little bits are coming off of one bulb. So these do quite quickly get overcrowded. So just like all bulbs that multiply, like your daffodils, it's a good idea every 3 to 5 years to dig them up and separate them out and just give them a bit more room, so that you keep getting good flowers, because it does reach the point where there's too many growing, which I think will very quickly happen with these guys, and they crowd each other out and you'll end up with lots and lots of foliage and no flowers. So it is a good idea to separate them every 3 to 5 years, but you don't need to do it every year at all. And you'll end up with a lot more bulbs. So I am going to let these dry here now, and then I will sort them out into different bags, put them away just for a month or two, and then get them back in the ground down in the allotment, where I hope they will do a lot better. But that is it from me today. So thank you for watching along this far. If you want to continue on and see how these do and me putting them back in the garden and then how they flower, then remember to click the subscribe button below. If you want to see what I do with the cut flowers from the garden, and you can see some of these ones that bloomed last year or this year, just a few months ago, then you can check out my Instagram page, which is From the Witch's Garden, and there's a link to that below as well. And that is all from me this week, so I will see you guys next week. Bye!